One of the best things about my job is that I get to see London all the time, but just driving it and seeing it firsthand is kind of limited. So I need some help with the use of books. Now, I've got a big selection of books here that I've read about London, and I want to share with you because this is a great way of attacking London in all different angles. And be sure to stay tuned because I'm going to be sharing the one book that completely blew my mind about how I see London. Let's get started. Right, first off, if there's any one book from this pile that I encourage everyone to get, it is I Never Knew That About London by Christopher Wynne. This is so easy and digestible to just be able to pick up, grab a few facts, and away you go. It's organised geographically, and not just like the city, it'll be like one corner of the city, another corner of the city of London, then go over to Chelsea. The thing I love most about this book is that it's real easy, digestible facts. You don't need a lot of context to be able to grasp some of the trivial stuff that's covered within this book. To give you an example, some historical London books are just so deep. You have to know who kind of was on the throne, what was the social context like, who were the key people involved, etc. Whereas this book, even if you don't know anything about London, there's going to be something in here that you can then grasp and get your head around. Let me just dive in, let's just find something in here. Let's go with Savile Row. In 1969, the Beatles played their last ever gig on the roof of Apple Records office at number 3. After 40 minutes, the police stopped the performance following complaints about the noise from neighbouring offices. The Beatles would never play together again. I mean, some people know about that story, that it was there on Savile Row, but quite specific where the location is. And just short, salient fact, January 1969. And then there's a real great chapter summary at the end of it. So it'll cover like Mayfair. So here in this little Mayfair section, Mayfair and Hyde Park actually, it's got Berkeley Square, Savile Row, all different areas. And then it has this very final summary, which is I never knew this. And it's just the random kind of like, here's some more facts about the whole area. The Egyptian igneous rock sculpture over the entrance to Sotheby's in Bond Street dates from 1600 BC and is the oldest man-made artifact in London. I didn't know that. I mean, it's the name of the book, right? But like, you gotta think the amount of times I drive past that, like on Bond Street, and I've never noticed that. So now I'm gonna go have a look at that next time I'm there. Queen Elizabeth II was born at 17 Bruton Street near Berkeley Square in 1926. Until 1960, Wellington Arch at Hyde Park Corner contained the second smallest police station in London. I mean, I've read this book time and time again, but you just come back to this stuff and it's just ping, ping, ping. This is a fact I love telling people. Westminster Bridge. The present Westminster Bridge was opened in 1862 and was designed to complement the Houses of Parliament. It is painted green in harmony with the green benches in the House of Commons, as Lambeth Bridge is painted red to match the Lords' benches. And obviously the House of Lords down there for red. Everyone needs a copy of this. I've always got this as like a reference because I just love diving in it. It just kind of just makes me smile every time I read it. So go get yours. I'll leave all the links for these books down below as well. So you can grab them on Amazon, put them on Kindle, Audible, whatever format you want. Londoners by Craig Taylor. The days and nights of London now, as told by those who love it, hate it, live it, left it, and long for it. And obviously the design is very clearly like a underground kind of motif, but it's not underground focused. This is just generally London focused. This book is kind of split into like a whole journey, like a whole life cycle of being in London. So from people who first come here, first arriving in London, to then how you get around London, to then how you go out and socialise and mingle and work within London. And what I love about this is that those chapters are actually subdivided into different professions. So on the going out chapter, rickshaw rider, nightclub door attendant, climbing the ladder, you've got property seeker, property owner, estate agents. It seems to be every kind of cross-section, anyone within any area, facet, crack of London is covered within this book. What does it actually mean to be a Londoner? Why do so many people come to London and then have such a love for it? And this is kind of like the main sort of topic of conversation I have with a lot of people in my taxi, actually. It's like, why are we drawn to this place? It's kind of, in many ways, a bit of a hell on earth. There's so many people just all trying to coexist in this one place, all trying to get their own thing from London, and many people not succeeding at it. It costs a hell of a lot of money to live in London. So why do we do it? And that is exactly why Londoners by Craig Taylor is a fantastic book. From the woman whose voice announces the stations along the London Underground, to the man who plants trees along Oxford Street, from a Pakistani currency trader to a guardsman at Buckingham Palace, together these voices and many more paint a vivid, epic and wholly fresh portrait of 21st century London. Now, as we're covering books today, this is a great time to introduce the sponsor of today's video, who are Blinkist. Now, I know that some of you might be watching this video and you don't have a lot of time to read books, or maybe you're wondering, Tom, how do you get through so many books? Well, I'm actually able to do that through the help of the sponsor of today's video, and that is, of course, Blinkist. Blinkist is a service that you can use on the web or you download as an app on your phone and has over 5,000 titles. Primarily non-fiction, but there's fictional text in there as well. And what it does is that it condenses the book down into 15, 20 minute or so blinks. And you can either read it on the app or have it narrated to you like an audiobook. You can get through so many books in this way. And then what I can then do is if I enjoy those blinks, then I can go on to buy the book and then get the book in a lot more detail. Or I might listen to the blink and think, you know what? I've probably got the gist of it from those blinks, and I can just kind of put that one aside, giving me more time to read the books that I do want to read. I mean, look at you right now. You're watching this video because you want to get a condensed overview of some of these books about London. So reading more books might have been on your to-do list for quite some time. So I'd encourage you to use Blinkist to be able to make that a priority now. Blinkist have a new feature called Blinkist Connect. So that premium plan you can share with someone else at no additional charge. So you're basically getting 2 memberships for the price of 1. And this is great as well because be it your other half or a friend, you can then connect and talk about some of the blinks that you've shared with one another and get great exposure to more and more blinks. So get 25% off Blinkist Premium, where you'll get Blinkist Connect so you can share that with someone else. Effectively 2 memberships for the price of 1. Use my link down below and get started with your free 7-day trial. Okay, so next up, How to Read London, a crash course in architecture by Chris Rogers. Now this is a real nice small book that can really open up your eyes to how you can see London. And every single double page spread is a particular building in London that's just got some nice snippets of information and a little bit of detail about that building. So let's just find an example in here. St Thomas's Hospital. So it's got the location, the date and the name of the architect, a rough kind of plan of each building as well. It's got here architect Henry Curry, date 1868 to 1871, and then one of the design features here. So air. The exact causes of infection were as yet unknown, but fresh air outdoors was recognised as vital for health. Terraces overlooking the Thames were used for sitting out patients, especially children. Joseph Bazalgette's epic sewerage works, prompted by the Great Stink a decade before, were already underway. So I didn't realise that. That's obviously why outside St Thomas's Hospital, you've got that kind of terraced area outside by the Thames. There is just so much great stuff in here. And there's going to be bound to be something you're going to learn new about buildings in London. I mean, even the Shard's on there, so lots of fun stuff to learn there. London, a life in maps. Can you see the smile on my face? Because I just love a good map. Maps, of course, across time of London, because obviously a map is an interpretation of London. This, covers a lot. What I like about this is that it's not like, here's an old map of London, isn't it cool? It's more, what did that map signify in London at that time? So for instance, there's actually a plan in here of Christopher Wren's new kind of London post Great Fire. He wanted to lay it out like a wonderful sort of piazza. Unfortunately, because of funding, timing of the monarchy, obviously we've got the restoration of Charles II to the throne, it all didn't quite happen, but there's plans in here for this and how quickly he drew those plans up. It was only several days after the Great Fire. The map or scale that we have today, how different it could have been just looking at some of the maps that are in this book. It's London, a life in maps, but the great thing is as well, there's even sort of like references to paintings that of course depicted what London life was like and obviously the areas in them. So most notable one is William Hogarth. So where these different locations in Hogarth paintings would have taken place in London. Because of course at the end of the day, if there's actual buildings in some of his paintings that then represent London, then these are in some ways a kind of a map, but obviously from street level. A map doesn't necessarily have to be something seen from above, although that's kind of our main perception of what a map is. Even that I can recognise straight away. So this bottom corner here, obviously it tells you where it is on the map, number one there. Actually right by St James's Palace. It's how iconic that little St James's Palace bit there is in the corner. So yes, London, a life in maps. There's a lot of maps in here, but there's also dissections of other facets of London as well, and how that's changed over time. Okay, before we get to the one that really changed my view and perspective of London, I'm going to have a quick summary of some of these other books that I've been reading and other notable exceptions as well. Robert Elm's London Made Us. Now, this book is kind of an exploration into what his London was and how it's changed. Now, it starts with a real poignant story of Robert Elm's mother, and basically, on her deathbed, remarking and commenting on a London that she sort of no longer identified with. It was a completely different place to what she grew up and what she knew. And it got me thinking about the idea that, everyone has their own sort of perception of London because it's always changing. And this is Robert Elm's own kind of, with a bit of a Western bias because he was from the sort of West Way, Ladbroke Grove, Notting Hill, Notting Dale area. It's really thought-provoking in like what I see and interpret as London, because it's everyone's interpretation. It's such a grand metropolis that there's not one kind of definition of what London is, because it's many things to different people. So it's good to kind of see it from his perspective, his point of view, and what it was and what it has become, and how I will personally interpret that as well. Blue Guide London. Now this is deep. I mean, look how densely packed this is. So for me, this book is great to sit on the front dash of my cab. If I drop someone off in a particular area or a particular building, I can then quickly grab this, have a quick read, and it might be, depending on how notable the building is, St Paul's Cathedral I think gets kind of like a 3-page spread within this. Something else, let's just say like the Lansdowne Club, for instance, might only have like a short paragraph. But, so it's a very matter-of-fact book. It's not going to be something you're going to sit down in one evening and go, oh, I'm going to read from the start to the finish, because it is very, very dry, very historical numbers. So I would use this more as a reference guide, but nice, concise references, so you can just extract pure information from it. The London Taxi, Nick Giorgiano and Bill Munro. It's only a relatively slim book, but this is great because it's literally about the progression of the taxi as a vehicle itself. But why they changed, how wartime efforts affected the design of cabs. But here we go. This is the bit I want to share with you guys. So the 1970s and the 1980s. The safety regulations demanded some changes to the FX4, including burst-proof door locks, a crash link in the steering, and a steering wheel with a padded centre. But the trade wanted more progress than this, including a new model of cab that did not squeak and rattle or let in rainwater. They said they could buy a Ford Zodiac for the same money and driving comfort, but there was no money available for a new cab. Inflation pushed the price of an FX4 from £1,200 in 1971 to over £7,000 in 1980, and also eroded the value of a cab driver's take-ins. So, what I like about that is the fact that cabs have obviously always evolved over time. We're looking at like the LEVC TXE that I've got right now as though the inflation's going up so much, and obviously it is, right? And it's a very, very expensive vehicle. But this stuff's all kind of happened in the past. It's just a refreshing look of the London Taxi and the things that have obviously got us to where we are now. So this is a great book to understand a lot more about London taxis. London, A Short History. Again, I hate massively historical London books because the history is just too dense. I just can't do it. So it just gives you enough of an insight to those key time periods. And if you want to learn a bit more about Roman London, Norman London, Chaucer's London, then you can go do that elsewhere. But this book's a real nice overview. It's not too thick. It can be a little deep in places. Some of the text, the fonts are a little bit academic and small. But it does what it says in the tin. Nice, short, condensed history of London. Right, finally, the bit you've been all waiting for, the book that has changed my perception on London the most. This is London by Ben Judah. This is London as you've never seen it before, is what part of the blurb says on the back. So if the book Londoners by Craig Taylor was more kind of like the average, everyday London for Londoners kind of book, this is like, well, this is London, is the kind of London that either falls through the cracks of society, so people that you don't really see or know much about, or people in, say, you know, the ivory towers in Belgravia, like behind those magnificent windows that you have no idea of the riches and opulence that people live with. It is quite sad in many ways because of some of the people and individuals that are featured in this. So one particular group of people is Romanian beggars. So people that are sold this lie of, you know, come to London, all you've got to do is go up and down Park Lane, you know, for a few months, just begging your way. Everyone's got so much money in London, you're going to have a house within 3 months. They get sold this lie, they're trafficked over here, they're in heavy debt to the people who trafficked them into the UK, and then ended up having to live in communities under like the Hyde Park subway. First published in 2016. So some stuff might have changed. This might be a little bit of a time capsule because of Brexit, post-COVID as well, but it still opened my eyes to that London that's there and that I can't unsee now. Eastern European labourers eagerly awaiting in Wick's car park at 6 a.m. in the morning, seeing the glimmer of hope that is a white transit van pull up. A man who's gone into Wick's to go buy some tools, supplies for a labouring job they might be on, and they needed a few extra hands that they can pay cash in hand, of course, way below minimum wage. And the kind of the desperation that you get from that. And it's not just the people at the bottom of the rung as well, it's the upper echelons of society, if you want to call it that just kind of you come through London. They're like transient to the population of London, that they're not really here, they're just kind of coming in and doing deals in London, right? I'd say that this book is probably the one that has definitely lifted a kind of a fog or a veil over what London actually is, so I can actually see what's happening on the streets more when I pick up certain individuals or I see certain individuals darting across London. But it's also made me quite a bit more compassionate for the people that you see either, you know, they might get a one chance encounter in the cab, or you might see them in one of these areas like Victoria Coach Station, Hyde Park Corner, quite desolate, down on their luck in the streets, and how they kind of got to that place. Thank you for watching this video. That's been a brief overview of some of the best books that have changed my perspective on how I see London. I'd love to know yours as well. Drop those in the comments down below. And big thanks to Blinkist as well for helping me be able to make this video. Do use my link down below to get 25% off of their premium plan, or at least give the 7-day free trial a go. If you want to learn a little bit more about London, then I'd highly recommend checking out this video over here, where I share some of the best views that you can experience entirely free of charge in North London. I'll leave that over there for you now. See you again soon. Bye-bye.